children were instructed to go ahead and get whatever coffee they wanted and start a fresh pot. Guess which part they managed to accomplish?
They got their coffee.
They got their coffee. Good morning, everybody. We'll be right with you. And good morning. Oh, yeah. Yep. Got it. Fixed. How you been, brother?
Tired.
I don't know nothing about that. Man, I had a VA thing yesterday. I spent 4 minutes talking to a doctor. And then I spent 4 minutes in a room with an x-ray tech for sinus x-rays. Yeah. The whole thing took 7 hours.
Yeah, I mean, sounds about right. Did somebody nod off on you while you were doing your paperwork with them?
No, I didn't have that problem. So the appointment was supposed to be at noon. It was an hour away. So of course I showed up 15 minutes early and filled out paperwork.
Right.
45 minutes after the appointment, I was actually speaking with the doctor. And then she told me to go to, she said, okay, you're good. We've got all this. And then you need to go to this other place and get an x-ray done. So I went to the other place to get an x-ray done. And as soon as I I walk in the door and there's just a line out the door. And I overhear one of the women at the counter say, yeah, our x-ray tech just went to lunch. He'll be back in an hour and a half. I'm like, all right, fine. I'll go take myself a long lunch. And then I got stuck in traffic behind a car accident. And I sat there for like an hour and a half. That was after going and burning change. So it wasn't entirely the doctors being a pain in the ass. But this is something that I have a hang up about. I despise seeing doctors because they are such self-centered and disrespectful shits. Well, I went to college. I'm super smarter than you are, and your schedule doesn't matter. It's like, listen, son, we have an appointment. We don't have an appointment for 3 hours from now. We have an appointment for this time. I'm here early as a courtesy. You can at least be on time.
I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I would point out that they did quite a bit more than go to college. Like, that's...
Does that mean that... Does that mean that...
No, it doesn't, but I mean, if you're gonna... no, but I'm saying if you're gonna characterize it, at least characterize it correctly. Like, you went to college, but
yes,
you're not a
did.
doctor.
That is true.
The medical school and the residency and all that. But like, there's that, and then it's my understanding that there's this whole complex layer of things that happen. Like, I am of the opinion that if you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. And if you're late, go fuck yourself. Okay?
Yes.
Like, I'm clear.
Yes, we move at 10.
Look, but that doesn't mean all the doctor's other patients have that same ethos.
See, that's irrelevant. That's absolutely irrelevant.
So if I'm mid-sentence with you...
Your problem does not become my problem.
So if I'm mid-sentence with you, I just have to... Oh, I'm sorry, we're talking about that thing that's really important, but because you were 10 minutes late and I've got this other guy that's got an appointment, fuck off?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to assume that would violate some medical ethics.
I insist that the doctor respects my time. Right? And in part of that, I go out of my way to respect their time. If that doesn't translate to other people, then we don't even have a concept of time.
See, I would look. I think this is one of your personal hangouts. I don't think anybody likes it, but like we don't have a concept of time, or many doctors are, they're trying to do 2 pounds of shit with a 1 pound bag.
There's a lot more to it than that. What a lot of what actually happens is they attempt to schedule more people than they can see because they expect people not to show up, which is also unethical. But it's and like Xanderback says, I'm not willing to cede my most valuable asset or resource to anyone. And yeah, okay. Sergeant Major says do the show, and that's fair. That's fair. I didn't mean to get spun off on a rant about doctors, but they do aggravate the absolute shit out of me with their grotesque, unprofessional inadequacy. But that's just...
I don't mean to get spun off, so I'm going to punch in one more statement.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
So crime. I went pretty hard after the indictment situation with Trump yesterday. And so today I want to talk about, and we'll probably end up getting back to the indictment question a little bit today, kind of related to the topic, but we have talked on this show before about the massive rise in crime across the country since the inauguration of Joe Biden. And yes, it is since the inauguration. Now, I'll qualify that a little bit. I think that the current wave of crime, the current rise in Dr. Major. But I will go so far as to say that the current rise in crime is at least in part resultant from, connected to, but not the same phenomena as the 2020 riots, which obviously happened while Donald Trump was in office. And I'll throw a little criticism at the Donald there, but honestly, there's a lot more criticism to be thrown over the 2020 riots in relation to the individual governors who did not take decisive action and do what it is their job to do, which is to secure the security of the people. They did not call in National Guard and take care of the riots. And for as much as the lefties like to spin this narrative about January 6th and all the violence of January 6th, nobody was throwing pipe bombs, fire bombs. Nobody was throwing Molotov cocktails at the Capitol building. The only people who died were Ashley Babbitt, the young Air Force kid, I almost said cadet, the young Air Force veteran that was murdered by the hero cop. And there was another murder. There was another murder by police officers right outside of there that's gotten even less attention. And I hate to admit it, but I forget that woman's name. Just straight beaten to death by a couple of police officers in the street. There's video footage of that happening, and there have been no consequences or repercussions for that. But the riots of 2020, coupled with the grotesque injustice of the McMichaels decision, of the St. Floyd of fentanyl decisions, the conviction of what's his name? The cop that knelt on St. Floyd. Chauvin. Where, thank God Rittenhouse came out the other side of his encounter as well as he did, but the miscarriages of justice that year were appalling, abysmal, and made it very clear that the law itself is extraordinarily biased, and it's not biased based on race or anything. No, it's explicitly a political bias. Its bias is related to who you vote for. Like, I mean, we saw riots on behalf of Jacob Blake, who wasn't killed by the police. He survived his encounter. His encounter involved police drawing their firearms on him after they were trying to arrest him while he was in the middle of kidnapping 3 children after having raped their mother. Right? And then when the police came to attempt to arrest the kidnapping rapist, he got a knife out of his car and assaulted them with a knife, and that's when they shot at him and did not kill him, which was the inciting event for which the riots in Kenosha happened, right? Pitt Danny and Xander Mack both mentioned the woman I was talking about that was beaten to death in front of the Capitol was Roseanne Boyland. Thanks for reminding me, guys. I could not remember that name. And so we've seen this rise in crime, and most recently we've been seeing more and more of these mobs of criminals. Stole more than $300,000 worth of merchandise at Los Angeles Mall, police say. This one was updated on Monday. This happened over the weekend, I believe. A mob of criminals stole more than $300,000 worth of merchandise from the Westfield Topanga Shopping Center in Los Angeles Saturday afternoon, police said. Excuse me. Had a little pop of hiccups there. I apologize. So, in these incidences, it's literally a mob comes swarming into the front doors of the store and just starts grabbing merchandise and leaving with it. And even in the event that the police arrive before everybody's disappeared, in LA, in California more generally, they don't affect any arrests. And even in the very, very few cases where there are arrests related to these, the criminals are released immediately. So between that, right, J6 prisoners sitting in jail for more than 2 years without even being arraigned in some cases, and the obvious conspiracy to defraud the election that is the repeated generation of completely specious indictments against the current opposition frontrunner in the upcoming election, I contend that we're essentially looking at a situation where law and order itself is on the verge of total collapse.
I wasn't real sure if you were done. Okay. So you know what, man, you did a lot. Okay. For starters, is it on the verge of total collapse? I don't know that that's how I would put it. I think for the longest time, we've said there's a two-tiered justice system, and then, really going back to things like when, Comey had his whole no reasonable prosecutor would,
right.
Like, those words, no reasonable prosecutor, somebody even made reference to them in our internal group chat yesterday, and everybody knew the context just from that comment.
Yeah,
So,
no reasonable prosecutor
right.
will bring charges for the thing that Donald Trump is being accused of.
That's not what was said, but you know.
But that is the thing that Hillary Clinton was accused of.
Yes. Okay. But collapse, I don't know. I think it might be more accurate to say that we're just reaching the point where the fact that it is two-tiered, where you're either powerful enough to get away with anything, or frankly, you're weak enough and you're one of those protected classes that's got the low bigotry, the soft bigotry of low expectations.
Well, and those
and then the middle, me and
right.
you.
Well, those in the crowd that are served politically by the soft bigotry of low expectations are enjoying an unprecedented tyranny of the minority today. And that's a large part of the entire political problem that we see in the United States, is that our elected officials and representatives are representing miniature, tiny little interest groups, not just to the exclusion, but to the absolute, to the intentional harm, the intentional detriment of the body of the people at large.
Yeah, like I said, you know, maybe, okay. And as far as what you're saying, well, yeah, I mean, when you're a Democrat from a big city and you want to keep getting reelected, you don't really have to give a shit about the rest of the state. You've only got to give a shit about the city, and you've only got to appear. I say quotes, but no, that's not an air quote thing. That's reality. You only have to appear to give a shit. There, the quotes are in the right place. You only have to appear to give a shit about the people in your city to keep getting reelected. And we live in the, Xander mentions Tim Pool. One of the things that I think Tim Pool gets right is he talks about how somehow we're both in the same theater, but we're watching two completely different movies.
Yeah, and he's quoting somebody when he says that.
But the point is, it's like the people that still believe, just for example, that you know, the very fine people on both sides hoax, right? Donald Trump never said neo-Nazis were good guys, not even close. And if you listen to the whole paragraph, he strongly condemns them. And yet what was reported was the very fine people on both sides, as though somehow that was a pro-Nazi statement. And as you go down the line, there are people that believe, for example, that happened, that the drinking bleach thing happened, that, right?
And these people believe, I mean, it's amazing to me. They honestly believe that he said things that he never said. Hell, even the press is the enemy of the people thing. He eventually said it in context, making reference to the use of the quote. But when they first started crediting him with the quote, Donald Trump had never said that.
So, but okay, so what I was getting at, trying to tie it all back to the indictments, because there's so much effort put into not just the mainstream media, but social media itself. Like, I realize you can't put the genie back in the bottle, but social media might be one of those things where, like, our grandkids look back and go, thanks for fucking it all up for a time there. Now, specifically with the indictments, the stuff with here in Georgia, man.
Damn, Sergeant Major's troll game is approaching Legion.
Part of the real problem here, okay, like this RICO thing, bro, I wouldn't scoff at it. I would not scoff. Fannie Willis has successfully pursued RICO cases, bro, against school teachers.
I'm aware.
Okay.
I'm aware. It's the only law she knows. It's It's her. She's a one-trick pony, and RICO cases are her one trick.
And she's good at the trick?
She is good at the trick. She's overplaying her hand here.
Maybe.
Dude, there are charges in that indictment that were filed before the election where she is accusing Donald Trump of trying to interfere with the election because he tweeted the words, I quote, "I'm going to win in November."
Okay. Now, but she's charged 19 people. I mean, bro, part of how RICO cases work is like, okay, you're all looking at a minimum of 10 years in a federal pen. Till one or two of you flip. Those one or two people don't get 10
Hot
years.
coffee.
Okay, come here and set it down on the table because you're holding the pot wrong. You look like you're about to hurt your wrist. So let's get some of that weight off the thing. Oh shit.
Anyhow.
That's okay. Put your cup here.
Yes, sir. But that's part of how RICO cases work, is that, bro, you only need one or two people to flip. And when you're talking about potentially having...
The camera's over here, Penny. Wave at the camera and say, "Good morning, Ma and Granddad."
Good morning,
Okay.
Mom and Granddad.
Now take the pot and go away. Thank you for coffee. We love you.
Bye, guys.
Coffee was nice. So, but the thing is this is going to contribute to the problem that you're talking about. There's going to be this whole thing where part of why I'm so tired is I stayed up to listen to Fannie Willis's statement.
Oh.
Well, I mean, it's a history-making thing.
It
so
is.
I was trying to, and then, it just went later and later and later and later and later and later. And at that point, like, I felt committed. Be like, well, it's almost midnight, but but
She's hard to listen to
right.
because she reads like this. She's hard to listen to.
But the thing is, the radio show, the Shelley Winter show, ran late because they were going to cover it when it happened. They were like, oh, instead of flipping over to Hannity, we're going to stay with a local show so we can give it local coverage. And Shelley Winter's producer came on and said something that I found very illustrative. He said, what you got to understand is that for some of us, at least, this has been a long time coming, and Trump brought this on himself. Told me everything I needed to know about that producer's mentality.
Yep.
And what he thinks should happen next. And that everything that happens in this trial, be it that Donald Trump is found guilty or if Donald Trump is found not guilty, it's going to reinforce his notions about what is correct. So part of the reason why I say there's this two-tiered justice system, it's not just the justice system that's two-tiered. It goes back to that Tim Pool thing. We're watching two different screens. If you think Donald Trump is actually Cheeto Hitler, well then almost nothing is off the table because you're trying to stop Hitler.
Right.
But if you don't, well, anyhow, those are just my thoughts. Also, just to be clear, I understand Donald Trump has more money than Atlanta public school teachers and can mount much more of a defense.
Well, it's not just that. The indictments are incredibly specious. Just like the DC indictment, all of the charges rely on proving the claim that Donald Trump personally believes that the election was secure, that there were no shenanigans, no problems at all, and that he legitimately lost a free and fair election. You have to prove that Donald Trump believes that he lost an election. And until you can prove that, Like I talked about the Coffee County thing yesterday, where New York Times is running this article that says that Trump and his lawyers breached Coffee County election equipment. That's a funny way to say conducted an audit on suspicious machines, because there is an important legal distinction. If Donald Trump believes that there was fraud, and his legal team, at the invitation of the election officials of the of Coffee County, Georgia, conducted an audit, and we get to charge him with a crime for doing that. Let me clarify something for you. That means that every time the IRS conducts an audit or requires you to submit information, that they are breaching your information if the law is settled in that way. It makes every violation of anybody's information a criminal activity.
Look, I'm not saying that it. You know what? Just flash mob robberies and Bazar.
Autocorrect.
That's a hell of an autocorrect. Like anyhow. But look, I'm not disagreeing the fact that this is a thought crime, and we spent all that time on YouTube not being allowed to question what happened in the 2020 election.
Right, and now we're allowed to say outright that it was stolen by Joe Biden and a dark cabal of conspiratorial Democrats who were still engaged in the conduct of a conspiracy to defraud the American people, leading up to an intent to eliminate the electoral capacity of next year's actual general election in 2024.
Yeah, okay. I'm done.
Come get me, Wajiki.
It's 8 o'clock anyway. Actually, nope. We have one more minute.
You have to keep talking for one more minute.
No.
Come on, do it. Do it.
You just interrupt me again.
Y'all be safe out there. We love you, and we will see you tomorrow.